A CIA operative, the protagonist, participates in an extraction at the Kyiv Opera House. His team retrieves an artifact but he is captured, tortured by mercenaries, and ultimately consumes a suicide pill. Sometime later, the protagonist awakens to learn the artifact was lost and the pill was a fake, designed as a test. An organization called Tenet recruits him and briefs him on bullets with inverted entropy, meaning they move backward through time. After meeting his handler, Neil, they trace the inverted bullets to arms dealer Priya Singh in Mumbai. The pair discovers that Priya is a member of Tenet, and that her cartridges were purchased and inverted by Russian oligarch Andrei Sater. The protagonist approaches Sater's estranged wife, Kat, an art appraiser who authenticated a forged Goya drawing that Sater purchased from an acquaintance of hers. Sater discovered Kat's mistake and is using it to blackmail her. In exchange for Kat's help, the protagonist and Neil agree to steal the drawing from Sater's Freeport storage facility at the Oslo airport. While there, they fend off two masked men who emerge from a turnstile in New Delhi. Priya later explains these turnstiles invert the entropy of objects and people, so the masked men were the same man traveling in opposite directions through time. On the Amalfi coast, Kat introduces the protagonist to Sater, who reveals he still has the drawing. Sater, enraged and jealous, plans to kill the protagonist. But the protagonist instead saves Sater's life when Kat attempts to drown him. The men strike a partnership to retrieve a case from Kyiv that supposedly contains plutonium-241, though as later revealed the case contains another artifact, the ancient Sater Square, which inspired the film's title, as well as two character names, Sater and Arepo, the Goya forger, the location of the opening sequence, opera, and the name of Sater's construction company, Rotors. In Tallinn, the protagonist and Neil successfully steal the case but are then ambushed by an inverted Sater holding Kat hostage. The protagonist gives an empty case to Sater and rescues Kat, but they are soon recaptured and taken to a warehouse with a turnstile. The inverted Sater demands the location of the object and shoots Kat with an inverted round. As Sater escapes into the turnstile, Tenet operatives led by Ives arrive, and the heroes take Kat through the turnstile to allow her inverted wound to heal. The protagonist travels back to the ambush and attempts to retrieve the object, but Sater overturns his car and sets it on fire. Sater gets away with the artifact, and protagonist is again saved by Tenet operatives. The protagonist travels back in time to the Freeport in Oslo where he fights his past self and enters the turnstile, followed by Neil and Kat. He visits Priya, who explains Sater has now collected all 9 pieces of a device, the algorithm, which will enable people in the future to invert the entropy of the whole world in order to destroy their past. To complete his task, Sater plans to bury the algorithm, which the protagonist deduces Sater will do in his hometown of Stosk 12, and transmit its location in a digital time capsule. Kat reveals Sater is dying from cancer, and the team surmises he plans to travel back to commit suicide during a recent family vacation to Vietnam, sending the coordinates into the future using a dead man's switch. The protagonist, Neil, and Kat travel back in time with Tenet troops. Kat poses as her past self and tries to keep Sater alive in Vietnam until the Tenet forces can recover the heavily guarded algorithm in STALSK-12. They use a temporal pincer movement, with non-inverted and inverted troops making a simultaneous assault, but protagonist and Ives are caught by Volkov, Sater's bodyguard, who is about to bury the algorithm. Sator calls and tells the protagonist that the people in the future want to reverse entropy to escape the effects of climate change. As he hangs up, an inverted soldier with a trinket sacrifices himself to save protagonist and Ives, and they secure the algorithm. Cat kills Sator before he can kill himself and escapes. The protagonist, Neil, and Ives break up the algorithm and part ways. The protagonist notices the trinket on Neil's bag, and Neil reveals he was recruited in his past by a future protagonist. Later, Priya attempts to assassinate Cat, but she is interrupted and killed by protagonist, who has realized he is the mastermind behind Tenet. Please like, share and subscribe my channel for more movie reviews.